I've always enjoyed running at night. The silence, the fresh air, the lack of movement in the city. It was my time of peace. But a few weeks ago, that peace was shattered, asterisk asterisk. It all started subtly. During one run, I felt like someone was behind me. I didn't see anyone when I looked back, but the footsteps, they were there, in sync with mine. When I stopped, they stopped. When I sped up, they did too. I convinced myself it was just paranoia. Maybe the echo of the asphalt or my own pace amplified by the solitude of the night. I kept running, but the feeling only grew worse. The following week, I started noticing shadows that shouldn't have been there. A poorly lit corner, a figure that seemed to move, and when I looked directly, nothing. Again, I tried to rationalize it. Fatigue, my mind playing tricks, anything. But then, one night after finishing my run, something changed. I was at my doorstep, digging for my keys in my pocket when I saw something strange. On the ground, right at the entrance, was a folded piece of paper. I picked it up carefully and opened it. It was a photo of me. I was standing exactly where I was at that moment, in front of my door. It was impossible. I hadn't heard anything, hadn't seen anyone. The photo was so recent that I was still wearing my running clothes. On the back, there was a handwritten message. "You can't escape me." My heart raced. I ran inside, locking all the doors and windows. I spent the entire night peeking through the curtains, waiting to see something or someone, but the street was empty. The next morning, I decided to change my routine. I started running at different times, on different routes, and even considered quitting running altogether. But it didn't help. No matter where I went, the feeling of being followed persisted. And it wasn't just a feeling. Now I was finding signs. Footprints in the dirt where I ran, objects out of place on my porch, and once my own water bottle, which I was sure I had left at home, appeared on a bench in a park I had never been to before. It was last week that everything intensified. During my run, I felt a different weight in the air, a tension that was almost tangible. The footsteps behind me grew louder, faster, as if someone was running to catch up. I stopped abruptly and turned around, my heart in my throat. No one, just the empty street and the faint glow of streetlights. I ran back home as fast as I could. When I arrived, something was stuck to the doorknob. Another photo. This time it was of me during the run, looking back with a look of panic. I didn't know what to do anymore. I changed the door locks, installed cameras, stopped running at night. But yesterday, while reviewing the camera footage, I saw something that filled me with pure terror. At 3 a.m., a figure appeared at my front door. I couldn't see its face, but it stood there motionless, staring at the camera. For almost an hour. Before leaving, the figure looked directly at the lens, as if it knew I would be watching. Today, I found another photo. This time, it was inside my house. I don't know how he got in. I don't know what he wants, but I know he's getting closer, and I know I can't escape. I've never been paranoid, but I've always valued security. I live alone on a quiet street in a residential neighborhood and installed security cameras around my house more as a precaution than out of necessity. I thought I'd never need them until I started noticing the signs. It all began with a message on my phone. No sender. It simply said, asterisk, I'm watching you. Asterisk, I thought it was some kind of sick joke, maybe even a mistake. I ignored it, though I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. The next morning, as I was leaving for work, I noticed footprints on the wet sidewalk in front of my house. It had rained the night before, but what struck me as odd was that the prints went back and forth to my living room window. I figured some curious passerby had come too close, but the thought started to gnaw at me. On the third day, things took a disturbing turn. I had gone to the store, and when I got back, I saw my name scrawled into the dust on the back window of my car. The problem? It wasn't me, and the car had been parked in the garage all day. By that point, I was on edge. That night, I decided to check the footage from my security cameras. I opened the app on my laptop and started reviewing the recordings from the previous day. First, nothing seemed out of place. Just the wind rustling the trees, a few shadows. But then, something caught my attention. At 3:13 a.m., a figure appeared in the corner of the screen. It was a man, tall and thin, wearing what looked like a heavy coat. He didn't move suddenly. He simply walked calmly toward my window. Once there, he stood still, staring inside. Pause. My heart began to race as I fast-forwarded the video, expecting to see him leave. But he didn't. He stood there for almost 40 minutes, completely motionless, just watching. I should have known something was wrong then, but it's what came next that made my blood run cold. I kept fast-forwarding until the next morning. I saw myself leaving the house for work. The entire time, the figure was still there. Not by the window anymore, but now in the backyard, hidden among the shadows. He never left. Suddenly, my heart stopped. I realized that at no point in the footage had I seen the man walk away. Not when I returned from the store, not later that night. He simply disappeared from the cameras as if he knew exactly where they were positioned. Then I heard a noise in real life, a faint creak coming from the backyard. My mind went into overdrive, panic overtaking every rational thought. The laptop was still open in front of me, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the living room window. Slowly, I stood up and approached it, trying to convince myself I wouldn't see anything. But he was there, in the same position, in the same spot, standing outside, looking in. Only this time, he wasn't on the camera. He was at my window, just a few feet away from me, and I could see him clearly. His eyes were lifeless, and his face was as pale as wax. I took a step back, and he tilted his head, as if studying me. My hands were trembling as I grabbed my phone, but before I could dial, I heard footsteps coming from upstairs. I'm writing this now, locked in the bathroom, holding a knife in one hand and my phone, nearly out of battery, in the other. The security cameras are showing something I can't comprehend. There are several people outside the house now, all standing still, staring at the windows, the doors. And the worst part? The footprints on the sidewalk aren't from just one person anymore. There are dozens. If you ever find this account, remember, if something or someone is staring into your house, never look back. It all started with text messages. They were short, strange, and harmless at first. Things like, "Hi, how are you?" or "Nice weather today, isn't it?" The number was unknown, unregistered, and I figured it was just someone trying to be annoying. I replied with direct questions, but I never got any answers, ***. The messages began to change after a week. Now, they mentioned specific things. ***, I like how you always pick the table by the window at the cafe. ***, that made me freeze. It was true. I always sat at the same table, but how did someone know that? I decided to ignore it. I thought about changing my number, but something told me it wouldn't end there. The next night, while I was at home, I got another message. ***, I love the blue shirt you wore today. ***, the problem? I really had worn a blue shirt. My heart started racing. This wasn't a coincidence anymore. Someone was watching me. The next day, while I was trying to focus at work, another message came. ***, you look tired today. I hope you get some rest. ***, I deleted the message immediately, without replying. But the worst part came that night. I got home late, after stopping at a cafe near work to unwind. As I unlocked the door, I saw something that made my heart stop. A note taped to the door. "I loved seeing you at the cafe today." My fingers trembled as I held the paper. I had been there less than an hour ago. I looked around, trying to spot someone, but the street was empty. I went inside, locking the door behind me and checking all the windows. Every room looked the same as usual, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That's when I saw it. On the living room window, there was a handprint. That wouldn't have been strange, except for the fact that the handprint was on the inside of the glass. My blood ran cold. I ran to my bedroom, locking the door and trying to call the police, but my hands were shaking so badly that I could barely dial. Before I could complete the call, another message came through. "You look even better up close." At that moment, I realized the sound of the TV, which I had left on before going out, was now off. Someone was inside my house. I'm locked in my bedroom now. I can hear faint footsteps outside, as if someone is walking down the hallway. The messages keep coming. The last one I received said, "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. Not yet. If anyone finds this, please share it. People need to know it's not safe to ignore the signs. And if you start receiving messages from an unknown number, delete them. Don't read them. Don't reply. I read them, and now he's here.